I would like to welcome and introduce our first speaker. He is a scholar and a political activist and a well-known poet. He is an Associate Fellow of Warwick University and an Honorary Fellow of Wolverhampton Polytechnic, and received an award from the city of Pisa in Italy for his contribution to poetry and popular music. He has toured the world from Japan to South Africa, Europe to Brazil, and is the only living poet to be published by Penguin Classics. I'll give you Mr. LINTON QWESI Johnson.
I named one of my sons Marcus in the hope that he would grow up understanding where he was coming from and who he was. I'm therefore very honored to have been asked to say a few words here this afternoon, and I apologize if I repeat anything that has been said before. The reinterment of Marcus Garvey's body in Jamaica in 1964 by Jamaica's first independent government, and his elevation as Jamaica's first national hero, was and remains of profound significance for the majority of Jamaicans at home and abroad. Viewed in the context of his time, Marcus MOSIAH Garvey is rightly revered as one of the great men of the early 20th century. Long before the civil rights, black power and anti-colonial movements, Garvey had achieved what none of his rivals could. Neither W.E.B. Du Bois, C.L.R. James, or George Padmore, namely the founding of the largest mass movement of black people in the form of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which, with, as the sister just said, branches in the United States of America, Canada, Britain, Africa, the Caribbean, Central and South America. What Garvey and his rivals shared, though, was an implacable commitment to the black liberation struggle, the redemption of Africa and the diaspora. Garvey was driven by a simple, self-evident truth, that Africans and people of African descent are equal to all other races, at a time when black people were brainwashed into believing that they were inferior to those who had enslaved and colonized them. He was determined that we should secure a seat at the table of humanity. He devoted his life to awakening his people from the deep, deep sleep of slavery and colonization, laid the foundation of the black nationalist movement, and provided inspiration for the freedom fighters who came after him. When New Beacon Books, Britain's first Caribbean publishing house, published Adolph Edwards' short biography of Garvey in 1967, the only other book available about him in this country was Amy Jake's Garvey's Garvey and Garveyism. Today, there is a substantial body of scholarship devoted to Garvey, among which Robert Hill's 10-volume The Marcus Garvey and UNIA Association papers is preeminent. Notwithstanding the corpus of published work on Garvey, both sides of the Atlantic, it is reggae artists who have helped to sustain Garvey's iconic status in the popular consciousness of the African diaspora. There is a significant body of reggae songs that memorialize Garvey and his ideas. These songs constitute an African consciousness in reggae music. Burning Spear's songs, Old Marcus Garvey, with its paradoxical refrain, "No one remembers old Marcus Garvey," and Marcus Garvey from the eponymous album come to mind. The entire album is both a celebration and invocation of Garveyite sentiment. In his song, So Much Things to Say, Bob Marley likens enmity against himself to the betrayal of Garvey in the lines, "I'll never forget no way how they sold Marcus Garvey for rice. And in Redemption Song, Marley paraphrases Garvey with the lines, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, none but ourselves can free our minds." In 1937, Garvey made a speech in Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada, during which he said, "We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others may free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind." In a recent essay, Professor Robert Hill reveals that although he has been a lifelong Garvey scholar, it was not until 2001 that he realized that the lines from Marley's Redemption Song were taken from Garvey's 1937 speech, when Professor Rex Nettleford, the late Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, pointed it out to him. It was then that Professor Hill recalled sending Marley a copy of The Black Man, in which Garvey's speech was published after a concert in Chicago in 1976. Professor Hill wonders if he had had a hand in Marley's song. On this day, as we celebrate the 124th anniversary of the birth of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, this blue plaque is an apt reminder of the legacy of his contribution to our struggles for self-emancipation and the continuing struggles for racial equality and for social justice in Britain. Thank you.